At 18, he began a full-time performance career. Since then, he has given more than 2,500 concerts, including over 20 performances at the White House. Elliott transferred to GS from Georgia Perimeter College and brought with him not just a passion for learning, but also a Southern charm and gentility that is refreshing for us hardened New Yorkers. At Columbia, Elliott has been fully immersed in the intellectual life of the university and the community life of the campus. He's been a regular tour guide, served on the student council, actively participated in the International Relations Forum and Political Science Students Association. He's also served with me and other faculty colleagues on the Committee on Instruction, the faculty committee that governs the entire undergraduate curriculum at Columbia. Elliott Shackelford graduates summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, a member of the GS Honor Society with honors in political science. Next year, he will be attending law school. I am privileged to present to you the salutatorian of the class of 2011, D. Elliott Shackelford.
Wow. Excellent job.
Thank you, Dean Ahn. President Bollinger, Provost Steele, Executive Vice President Dirks, Dean Ahn, faculty, families, friends, classmates, and a special welcome to our Class Day speaker, Professor Roger Leeds. I have never been more honored to step onto a stage than I am today with my fellow graduates of the class of 2011. This is the day that we've all been working toward for a very long time. Today is a celebration of that effort and recognition of the years of work and anticipation. It's also an acknowledgement of the support of faculty, administration, and those close to us who are with us today. The people who have been unreservedly invested in our accomplishment, who supported us academically and personally, and without whom it would have been a far more difficult, if not impossible, challenge to overcome. We've been called the dancer, the journalist, the supermodel, the mom, the business exec, the soldier, and so many other fascinating identities. At times in the past, these distinctions have created a lack of common experience between us and everyone else around us. We have been known as so many different things, and yet we have shared a common goal during our time on this campus, the degree that we receive today. And so today, and for the rest of our lives, we also share the identity of being Columbia graduates, and that will never change.
Woohoo!
Our time as students in the School of General Studies has provided an incredible exchange of perspectives as we've learned from each other, an adventure providing uniquely thought-provoking and sometimes rather interesting experiences. I still remember talking with a professor after a class in which we had discussed the fall of the Berlin Wall, when we both suddenly realized that we had watched that event live on television before many people in the class had even been born. There's nothing like taking a course about security strategies with a military veteran who has been on the ground and seen the situation firsthand. And there's nothing like studying social justice with a community organizer, and a financial analyst. But our education hasn't come just from being surrounded by interesting or brilliant or diverse people. It's the camaraderie within a shared vision. It's about people who have known and done so many different things, who come together and say, there are so many things that I still don't know. The reason that we're all here, the reason that we're all in the same graduating class, is that at some point, together or separately, we've said, I want to know more at this particular place, at this particular time, in this particular way. People often ask how a pianist becomes a political scientist. But this kind of transition is really the norm at GS. Among the many amazing people that I've met are Rob Cowdy, who left the business world because he had always wanted to study film, and Stephen Tobias, who graduated last year with a degree in English after having built a successful brokerage firm. And he also happened to be at GS at the same time as his daughter. General Studies students have learned throughout life, through experience and searching for every opportunity to gain new knowledge. This is why we came to GS, to be in an atmosphere where this discovery is the central focus. We are here today because we wanted to have the ideas, to explore the opportunities, to try new things, and at times to fall short, and then go on to succeed, all within a class period, or a semester, or the entirety of our time at Columbia. Like Dr. Leeds, I think many of us were initially uncertain about whether General Studies really should have accepted us for admission. But eventually, my disbelief at being here, being at Columbia University, actually ended up being a reassurance. I still remember standing at the window of Kent Hall after my Chinese literature class in my first semester, completely overwhelmed by how much there was to learn, how much there was to write, and above all, how incredibly much there always was to read. Then when I looked out over campus, I remember thinking to myself, this is Columbia. I'm at Columbia, and there's no way I could have ever expected to be here. Ever since I first walked through the Amsterdam Gate, and the reason it was the Amsterdam Gate is because I got lost in Harlem on the way to campus. The 2 train, you know. Ever since I walked through that gate, I've been conscious of the tradition of excellence in education at the highest level that pervades this very special place. The inscription at the top of Low Library has never failed to give me chills, because although this is our day, our celebration, it is also a celebration of something that is ongoing. When we walk across this stage in a few minutes, we will become part of a tradition that, as the inscription says, has been maintained and cherished from generation to generation. Our being here today is the culmination of the investment of the people who came before us, and a little investment of our own too. But our time and accomplishment at Columbia, and the things that we choose to do after it, is likewise an investment in those who will become part of this tradition in the future. In a way, the legacy of our time at Columbia is in what it has changed and will continue to change about who we already were. I had done a lot of traveling before coming to GS. As a concert pianist, it goes with the territory. But exploring the world in the classrooms of Hamilton Hall or in the stacks of Butler Library truly expanded my perspective. Through the ideas of professors, conversations with TAs, the opinions of my classmates, and innumerable books and articles, I was given a gift. I was allowed to stop being an intellectual tourist. The world has always been accessible, and between us, we've seen most of it. But even familiar places are now intellectually available to us in a way that they have never been before. I've always been partial to T.S. Eliot for obvious reasons. And he captured this idea when he wrote, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and to know the place for the first time." The things that we still want to know are out there, waiting to be known. And we have now developed a constantly evolving consciousness that will allow us to explore and to better understand a world with countless facets. When I first started playing the piano, when I was 5 years old, I remember having to sit on a stack of telephone books in order to reach the keys, straining to see the notes on the sheet music, with my legs dangling above the floor. I remember how excited I was when I was at last able to sit on the bench with my feet flat on the floor. At times over the past few years, I felt like I was carrying those telephone books around with me as I dragged my bag from class to class. But now none of us needs the telephone books. And it's time to just look out over the top of the piano toward the audience and just play for them and also for ourselves. I believe it's conventional at commencements to talk about going out and changing the world, that there is an obligation that must be fulfilled. The exciting thing to me, though, is that this challenge can also be an opportunity. We don't have to think about changing the world. Just by graduating, we already have. We were on a certain path. We had a certain story. And not only did we change it, but we learned that we can. And therefore, we can again. And people who are like us and unlike us can make that same change for themselves. Our Columbia education has given us a foundation for whatever we do to change things from now on. The opportunity is not automatic. The things that we can accomplish will not just happen, but the deliberate action it takes to get there is now more familiar. It is what stimulated the decision to come to GS, and what gave us the ability to get up every day, to stay in the library an extra hour, to write those extra few pages. Many of us here know what failure feels like, what fear and doubt smell like, what uncertainty and disappointment tastes like. And yet, not a single one of us knows about giving up, which is why we're here today. And all of you know what success looks like because it looked back at you from the mirror this morning. And you can see it sitting on either side of you right now. And this is how it should be. Many of you have been in class with me, or right next to me, writing a paper at 3 a.m. in a lounge, or freaking out about the paper you should have been writing at 3 a.m. in the lounge. Maybe we weren't as well rested, as clean shaven, or as well dressed as we are today, but that is what success looked like too. No matter the individual struggles we faced, or the different lives that we lived, one of the things that binds together our experiences is that we did it. We went to class more often than not. We turned in our assignments. and we finished our semesters. It really is an unbelievable accomplishment, and also an act of faith, since we believed in ourselves, our ideas, and the sometimes all-consuming process that is a Columbia education. We believed enough to say that it is worth it as an investment in our minds, in our futures, and in ourselves. I still remember my first connection with GS students through an online community called Storybook on the school's website. It was filled with all sorts of advice that made me wonder if I was really ready for this experience. Because as I read through it, I kept thinking to myself, well, I hadn't thought of this. Why didn't I consider that? But what enchanted me was that this was my very first experience interacting with the aspect of GS that had originally attracted me, the completely different stories that we all were bringing into this place. C.S. Lewis wrote that friendship is born at that moment when one person says to another, "What? You too? I thought I was the only one." Which I think perfectly applies to our school. Together, we have continued our distinct narratives here at General Studies and Columbia, substantially changing them for the to be continued, the next chapter, the next volume in the series that lies ahead. Today, I'm graduating with some of you who I met on the Storybook website and many others who came both before and after. We are coming to an end of this chapter in all of its comedy and drama, and the exciting thing is, so much more of the story still lies in the future. And so, once again, I applaud you, my fellow graduates. I wish you the very best in your future stories. And I want to say again that it is my privilege to be a part of this outstanding class, the class of 2011. Thank you.
Woo-hoo. Well done, Elliot. May 16th, 2011.